Let me show you how to make an easy busted canvas craft. I'm using old Christmas cards, so it's been so much fun. First, run to Dollar Tree and get two 8x10 canvases, but make sure one is a stretch canvas and one is a canvas board because they're gonna sit right on top of each other like that. Next, you want to find a picture you want busting out of the canvas. I'm using an old cardinal Christmas card. Last time I used a snowman. And then you want to find two contrasting colors of paper. You can use either scrapbook paper to go on the canvases, or you could also use patterns of napkins. I've seen both ways and both are super cute. So first step, cut your paper to size. Now one, I'm going to cut exactly 8x10 because it's going to go on the front of the canvas, but on the back side of the stretch canvas, your contrasting pattern is actually going to be a little bit smaller because it has to fit inside the frame. So see, I have them both cut. They match my card. Let's first work on the stretch canvas. So to do that, I'm going to use a flat brush with some ModPodge. That's going to be my glue. I'm just taking my ModPodge on my brush and do a generous coat on the front of my stretch canvas. Make sure you get enough to fill in all the holes. You want it to be even so the paper will stick. But make sure you dry the ModPodge on the canvas first before attaching the paper. See, it's dry to touch. And then turn it around and make sure you give a generous coat of ModPodge on the back of the stretch canvas as well. And dry it. We're drying the ModPodge so our paper won't wrinkle when we put it on. Instead, let me show you another technique. So see, it's both sides are dry to touch. We're going to do the iron-on method, so just grab your craft iron and put it on a cotton setting. I'm also going to take a piece of wax paper, and with my first pattern that's going on the front of the stretch canvas, I'm going to lay it down over the dry ModPodge, lay down the wax paper over top of that, and just go over it with your iron. Make sure you're getting all the edges really good, and what that's doing is it's melting the glue to the paper and attaching it to the canvas at the same time. This also gets out all your wrinkles, so it's a win-win. There we go. It's attached to my stretch canvas. I'm going to flip it around. And then you can do the same thing with your contrasting pattern. So I'm going to lay it in there in between the framing, put my wax paper over top, and then use my iron. This is a little bit trickier because you're ironing inside the framing, but a regular iron does usually still work inside an 8x10. So that's how you finish the stretch canvas. Let's set that aside and work on the canvas board that's going to be behind it. On my snowman, you could only see a little bit of my pattern peeking out. So instead of using a whole piece of scrapbook paper this time, I'm just going to paint around the outside edge of my card. Paint is great, especially if you don't have a whole lot of paper to work with. I'm going to use my pouncer and just take some light blue and white paint and dab it around the outside edge. That way, if any of it does peek through from the busted part of the canvas, it will be just a little bit and nobody will really notice. Just make sure you dry the paint before we put the card on. See, that's a pretty good fit. Now, to attach it, what I realized after making my snowman one is you may want to move it around at the end just in case. So I'm going to use these pop-it dots that you can also get from Dollar Tree. They are just little stickers to attach the card instead of putting it on permanently, but this will allow you to move it around as needed at the end if you need to. So see, they're stuck. It's raised a little bit, but that's okay. That's actually kind of a neat effect. Now, speaking of paint as well, we have our rough edges here. If you have napkins, you can always bring it around the edge. I used ribbon on my snowman one. But if you don't have either of those things, guess what? Paint works just as well. So I'm taking one of my pouncer sponges and I'm actually just dabbing on the color paint that matches my patterns. Using one of these sponges is much easier to paint edges of canvases than using a brush because you don't have to worry about the little bristles getting on your design. Once the paint is dry, line your canvases up on top of each other. It's time to poke the hole in the canvas. So that back pattern is going to poke through the front. To poke your hole, don't do it right in the center of your canvas. Actually figure out where you want the focal point to be and mark it. Mine is going to be directly over my two cardinals there. And then take one of your pointy craft objects and poke a hole through, all the way through the back. Now, I'm using my craft scissors because they're good for cutting paper, but you could use a utility knife or a craft knife. That's going to give you a cleaner edge. I think the scissors give a little bit more busted look. See my triangle, you can see the pattern showing through it. Now, you could do whatever pattern you want. I like to do the diamonds all the way around my focal point, so I'm just cutting little triangles all the way around there. And the one tip I can give you if you do this pattern is make them all different sizes. Some can be longer, some can be shorter, some can be wider or thinner. It's up to you, but it really depends how much of your picture you actually want to show through. Lay it over top of your picture when you get it done and pull back some of the layers. That's going to give you an idea if you cut them long enough. This one was a bit too thick, so I'm cutting it just a little bit thinner. There we go. Now I can see my evergreen. Now, I can see my cardinals. Some people like to just leave it hanging open like this, but I'm going to use my glue gun to glue them all down, going just in different directions. So I put a dot of glue at the top of that triangle, and I turned it around like a loop. Some people do them all loops like that. I think it's fun to have them go all different directions. So see, this one here I'm going to have going to the right instead of the left. And this one here up in the corner, I'm going to put the glue on the bottom and have it go around like a ski slope. It flips up at the end. One of my favorites too is turning them and having them not go quite in a complete circle, but come out on one of the sides. Let's do one that's flipped up there. Again, there's no right answer. Just have fun with it. See what works for you and your design. I'm glad we painted the canvas because I'm already seeing some of it peek through on the edges. But when you get them all glued down like this, then you can decide if you need to move your pattern because we used the pop-it dots instead of gluing it to the back canvas. I'm going to move my card up to the left just a little bit, and I think that's going to be perfect. So let's add the canvas back over top. There, much better. You can only see just a little bit of the background peeking through. Once you have everything set where you want it, then you can make it permanent by gluing your stretch canvas to the canvas board. I just used hot glue. I'm placing it over top of the canvas board as evenly as possible. Looks pretty good, and because we painted the edges, it all lines up nice and even. As a final touch, you can decorate it however you want. I've seen people use different 3D elements. I'm using some polyester stuffing to look like snow. The cool thing about this busted canvas trend is no two are exactly alike, so you can really let your creativity run wild. Make it your own, as always. I was having so much fun, I even made a Thanksgiving version. So if you'd like to see how I made that one or my snowman busted canvas, I'll try to have those videos linked in this video as well. And if you like this tutorial, don't forget to follow me for more. Happy crafting, everybody!